Veo el campo como que no tiene futuro. No tiene futuro porque necesitaríamos que cambiaran los climas, que lloviera o que lloviera más.
¡Viva los agricultores de Chihuahua!
This felt like a very on the ground kind of piece, and that added an immediacy and a danger and a relevancy. And I felt very connected to the community through it, as it felt narrated and guided by the community, which I think is important and makes an authenticity factor a lot more prominent. Great pacing, it felt very visceral and pointed. All the shots felt very chosen with care, and there was some interesting juxtapositions and a poetic nature to a lot of the images. They seemed brimming with those juxtapositions, um, and they were full of the nuance in the emotional state. And I really liked that balance between the immediacy and that stylized clear vision as well.
Lighting, the cinematography, and the music from this documentary, I think it was so professionally done. The shots are done in so well, especially the establishing shots. And the reason I think that these are so important is because this is an environmental film, and in order to sort of speak on the issues of climate change, you need to see the scope of the land and how much beauty can be affected and how it is actually being affected. So I think that was a very important choice and a very specific thing that they had to do and had to look at as the creative team. I think the topic, even though it is about climate change and it's an environmental activist issue, is specified as a specified story of the issue in Mexico, and it is important because it is a great avenue to sort of draw you in, and then on the whole speak about climate change. So I like how they sort of zoomed us out of this.
Walnut farming, and we get to see how the weather affects the output when it comes to drought and the water retention. And this doc follows this farmer. We get this personal view of his life and how farming is. And then we see sort of after we've gained this feeling of, oh, I want to see him win because we've seen his personal, we do get to see his fight. And we see this revolution that has taken place amongst the farmers in this area because of this water source that has caused all this political unrest. And then you see the commitment of this community to protecting the water source, to guarding the water source, to fighting for this water source. I mean, what you kind of think you're getting starting off is a story of, this farming, and it turns into really this story of this community standing together against what they considered an injustice.
Dives into things such as water debt that Mexico has for the US. And because of this and the droughts that Mexico has been having, it ends up having a detrimental impact within the farmer community, farm workers in this area. So there's a lot of protests happening, a fight against this, which eventually in the end we find that they do end up getting their rights back to the water, but with the impact of climate change, there's still an issue of them having a risk for essentially losing everything that they've worked for. This documentary short ends up coming out with such a strong statement in the beginning of the film where they make a comment that there is no future for farm workers, kind of making a notion that the land will eventually not be able to have a nourishment to grow food due to the lack of water or resources that we have come to face due to human responsibility.
It's great for anyone who enjoys environmental documentaries or just wants to learn more about what people around the world are doing to protect their habitats and natural resources. It's really interesting and really inspiring.
Whenever push comes to shove, uh, 9 times out of 10, farmers are heavily disrespected, uh, especially when you realize just how much they contribute towards your daily living. Um, all the food you eat comes from a farm, yet when it comes to basic rights in order to keep these farms running, governments tend to drag their feet. Case in point, with this documentary talking about this water drought, where with with what the government was trying to do, it basically would have crippled the farming community, and the consequences of that wouldn't be felt until it's too late. Um, so it's definitely important to realize just how important farming is towards our everyday living. And when it comes to taking advantage of that, we definitely need to make a stand of letting our governments know that we need farmers.
It's a very sad issue. With the farms being in danger like this, it was very affecting at the end to see all the groups, all the families, all the workers gathered together. Just letting us see their true humanity and their true selves. To know that they occupied the dam for 409 days before reaching a deal that was something. That's very sad and very amazing that they went to that effort. So, but this is a very good film. The interviews were all conducted very nicely. Everybody who spoke on camera did a great job explaining everything very well.